I can see it.
Okay.
Yeah. Can everyone see Elizabeth's screen?
I can, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
So I didn't.
Elizabeth, start by saying what the presentation's about and the title of your key text and essay and how it relates, and then talk us through your presentation.
Oh, okay. Hold on, let me get the essay title because I don't remember the name of it. But okay. Okay, I'll go to Padlet. So my title of the whole project is about conformity, and this is the essay from, so the research, the bottom one, says social influence, compliance, and conformity. So this is my title essay. Let me see if I can open it. Okay, so this is it. So I read through it, I highlighted some bits. And so the important part from it though is the conformity part. So, where is it? Here, so conformity refers to the act of changing one's behavior to match the responses of others. So yeah, so that is it. I'm gonna go back. So I begin by just planning out what I'm gonna do, like what people to research. I did Van Gogh, and that's the only one I did. But yeah, I didn't do much part of the research other than reading the essay and some online things.
Who is the essay by?
Oh, I'm not sure. Let me see. Says Robert B. I don't know if that's who wrote the. I think it's from a book. Like
that's what you need at a later date. That's what you need to find out. The author and the origins of the essay, and whereabouts you have taken it from, and all those details are really important to include in the FMP.
Okay. So then I did a survey probably like 1 month ago. So it wasn't exactly on conformity. So I might try, not an essay, a survey, sorry. I'll try to do another survey, more, more relevant to my topic now, because it's not, it doesn't really relate that much, but I still included it in my sketchbook. Then I just did some drawings of eyes because I want to do some, like a series within my my topic of like eyes, because I feel like society is always looking at you, always trying to find things and maybe blame you or some find something weird, because this is what conformity is about. I guess it's trying to fit in, sorry.
Yeah, Big Brother. I really like the idea of the eyes. That's interesting.
So I thought I would do some drawings of it. So the first one I did is this one. Like I still haven't finished it, but I just did like a illustration type eyes. It's not really like a realistic thing, but I just did this one. It's A1. Yeah, it's A1. It's quite large, but I still have to
Yeah.
finish it. And this
Drawn,
one,
have you drawn the eyes from observation?
sorry.
Have you drawn the eyes direct from observation?
Well, these ones was from a YouTube tutorial. It's not a tutorial, like there's this guy that does a lot of anatomy tutorials on YouTube. So I just followed his, and he has like an eye picture and things like that. So I guess maybe, but
You need
so
what
I
you
did
need to do is you need to have or examine actual people's eyes and take photographs and
yeah,
actually draw from life. So you're
yeah.
using prime sources.
Yeah, I took some photos of my parents' eye, and like 3 of my friends sent their pictures of the eye. So I'm gonna try to draw. I haven't drawn them yet, so I'm gonna do that soon. So this is from another tutorial on YouTube from the same person. So these are just not quite relevant, but I just did them as well. Just drawings of the mouth, the lips. And this one's before I did the larger one. This is in my book, just with a fine liner to see how it will look.
What gave you the idea to repeat the eye pattern and turn it into a pattern?
I thought it would look quite how can I say, like disturbing, I guess, because when I look at it, so many eyes, it's just quite like I don't know, it's weird. I feel like they're just looking at me. I don't know, it was quite an experience to draw them because there's too many eyes.
I think that you should fill a whole room or a whole space with eyes. In college, in one of the rooms, completely wallpaper it with eyes that go across the whole of the room or the ceiling.
Yeah, that would be good. Yeah, I just think the eyes just the main thing from this project I'm probably gonna do. This is some experience with bubble wrap. I thought they quite replicate like eyes because they're just in a circle. They're just some experiences that they don't look that great, but I'll try to do something more using it. Yeah, they're just in my sketchbook. And this one is still from it's a bigger canvas. I think it's about the ones I got from school, A1 or A2. I don't remember what size it was. But yeah, I'll try to do more eyes again, that they look more like a realistic eye, but having colors around them like I did in this one. So I'll try to finish this one as well.
I think that you should draw and take photographs of everybody's eyes in your peer group and work with those as well.
Yeah, okay. These are just some photographs that I could use for like observational drawings. I did one of observational drawings of this pomegranate, but I don't know where it is. Well, it's not here, but I did an observational drawing of this one when I was photographing it. But I don't have it to show you. I don't know where it is. And this is another photograph. Yeah. Not that related to the project, but I thought it would be fun to do it. And yeah, I don't have anything else.
Have you looked at famous types of conformity experiments?
No.
Pavlov's dogs, people that conform and inflict pain on each other because they're confronted by somebody wearing a suit or a medical gown, even though those people aren't actually medical practitioners. There are lots and lots of case studies and essays based on conformity and behaviour, and how people changed their behaviour because of somebody wearing a uniform, and being influenced by social conditioning and fear and control. So I think you need to look at social and psychological forms of conformity and social experiments based on that. There are some really famous experiments where people have been, they have a control, they had control groups and B groups, and people were asked to do certain things, and then they were asked to do certain things by somebody dressed up as a medical professional, and they did them straight away because of the emphasis that we place on somebody wearing a uniform, etc. I will try to dig out some more information on it for you, but I want you to do some research on that as well. Psychological experiments in relation to conformity and social conditioning. I think that needs to be embedded into the theory side of your project, so that you are looking at human conditioning and behavior and how humans behave or why they behave in certain ways due to the presence of authority or what they think may be authority, and how we change our patterns of behavior through conditioning. I think that needs to underpin more. I really like the idea of the eyes. I think that's really significant. And I think you need to push that more and take more risks. I want you to, tomorrow, when you come into college, to take one of the rooms and to make eye wallpaper and fill a particular area or the whole space and make an installation of that. And then also take photographs and draw as many peers' eyes as possible. So you're working from direct observation.
Yeah. Okay.
Also, I'm thinking that you need more. I think you need more significant or a more significant essay that you can become familiar with. And I'll help you with that tomorrow. And that can be based around psychology and tests and why people behave the way they behave, so that you are able to read off the author, the experiment, what happened, and so you become more confident with that rather than just one essay that you found off the internet. I think that's going to link to your project more significantly. Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Okay. What else? Have you started any larger scale experiments for this, or is this everything that you have so far?
Well, the largest one is this one, the A1, but that's about it. And the other canvas one, this one.
Okay. What we could do as well and put that on the photocopier, replicate it, maybe get some blurred imagery from it, and then start to fill a space and you could conduct some experiments. Oh, actually, we could get you doing some putting on different types of uniforms, and also wearing the white aprons that we've got in college, and reenacting some of it. And I'll show you I want you to go online and see if you can find, I haven't got the specific titles, of psychological acts of conformity where people have inflicted pain or hurt other people by pressing, I think it was pressing a buzzer, and that buzzer was connected to electro forces that inflicted pain, not because they wanted to, but because they were instructed to, by somebody in a uniform, etc. And it's all related to social conditioning. I think you need to look at that and investigate that more.
Okay.
And we can talk about extended key texts and more essays in detail tomorrow. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay.
Good. Hannah, any practical advice, targets, or things that you think Elizabeth could carry out for tomorrow when she's in the studio?
Practical stuff. Well, I mean, it already looks like she's got a really great like breadth of work, practical work. I don't I don't know. I like the idea when you were talking about saying, oh, you should go around and take pictures or something of other people's eyes. And I know like you can't get too close to people now, so that's kind of a bit awkward. It makes the whole like getting detail of someone's eyes a bit tricky unless you're using a photograph. I'm not sure.
I think Elizabeth could do some really, really close up observational studies of her own eyes.
Oh yeah.
And some really large, there's a painter, I think his name is Headley Roberts, and he does really detailed large scale paintings of faces and eyes, particularly eyes. So I think tomorrow you need to get a magnifying glass from the technicians, mirror, we've got mirrors, and some really, really close-up studies of your own eyes. Have you done anything on your own eyes, Elizabeth?
I've taken pictures, meaning to do some, but I haven't done anything.
Do some primary observational studies of your own eyes, paintings and large-scale drawings, definitely. Bunny, did you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I do. I was just going to suggest for maybe the eye installation in a room, maybe you could explore using lino printing or mono printing.
Yeah, good idea, actually, because I think lino will really give character to your actual, what you're like, the meaning and message, what you're trying to say behind it. And look at woodcuts and lino prints of facial features and eyes, but work from direct observation. Use your own eyes. Move away from looking at anything from the internet. It all needs to be primary based. Also collages of facial features and eyes as well. You could, for example, photograph your eye in detail, replicate it, so multiply it, scan it in, put it on the photocopier 2,000 times, cut them out like almost like stickers, and then place them around one of the rooms. So there's lots of them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
and then you've got lots of them looking back at you. I think that will be quite interesting.
Yeah.
And research today, installations are made up of facial features and eyes, eye installations, and artists that replicate in detail and abstract eye paintings. That's going to be your targets and your ILPs for the rest of today. And I want you to embed that into your Padlet and your project so far, and get yourself a magnifying glass and bring in a small mirror from home. We've got mirrors at college, but get yourself ready to get started, and then we can scan and put things on the photocopier as well. I think will be really interesting.
Okay.
I think it's a good start, but you need to think about your key text and essay and branch out much more, so you've got relevant information and not just the one thing of the internet. And I can help you with that tomorrow in the lesson. Look at today experiments, social conditioning and conformity experiments based on the body and behavior, and get some new research done on that as well, in terms of conformity. So psychological experiments in real time and real live experiments conducted on people to see how they behave in certain situations. And Hedley Roberts, I think that's the painter's name, in terms of the eye, that's quite abstract work. And then getting a range of about 5 to 10 artists that work on facial features and eye drawings and paintings. I think you need to work outside your comfort zone and take that much further.
Okay.
Take notes from this discussion, record all of this, put Hannah and Bunny's feedback into it, because you need to be recording for your FMP, obviously self and peer assessment, Q&A discussion, and all of that needs to go into your diary planner, your book, your Padlet, and you record all of that feedback as well. So make sure you're doing that. And
Okay.
let's move on to Bunny. Can you share your screen and discuss the contextual essay and references behind your work in terms of your FMP and how it's influenced you?
Okay. Right. Let me. Here we go. Right, 1 second. Can you see my screen?
Yes. Hang on.
Okay.
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. So basically, this is the first key text I found, and I just went through and I annotated all the bits I related to, or how it related to my theme. There was actually quite a lot of it, because I thought of my theme first and what I wanted to do, and I just tried to find a essay that fitted it, and this one was kind of perfect in a sense. I'm not sure how should I do this. Should I just okay, it's so basically I did it in paragraphs.
Yeah.
And
Is this you inside analysing?
yeah, that's that on the
Yeah,
side. That's
yeah.
so so there's quite a lot. Like I did quite a few slides.
Yeah,
because it's quite a long
this is
one.
at year 2. This is what UAL will be looking at, deep analysis, and I really like the way you've laid this out.
Sorry, 1 second. Okay, so the first paragraph. Oh no, this is so okay. I'm so sorry. This is so annoying. I'll just do it like this. So the first paragraph is basically it defines what body horror is, And one of my there's so many quotes in this essay that it's really cool in a sense. Like I think one of the best points in this paragraph is body horror does not exploit the familiarity of disgust of spilling blood. Instead, it introduces the audience to a relationship with the body they wouldn't have imagined on their own. I linked that back to transgender identity and how that could kind of be flipped in the sense of the cisgender heteronormative world versus the transgender world, and said that maybe some cisgender people who are transphobic in a way are just confused and scared by it because they couldn't possibly imagine the feeling of dysphoria and wanting to be something that doesn't typically look human in a sense. So they just feel scared and like, what is that? That's not normal. So I linked that back to body horror. They also make a point of where does the monster end and where do I begin? Talking about the link of like the seemingly trustworthy and sacred human form becomes the monster. Talking about like how once again, like transphobes might view the human form as like the sacred, precious thing from God, and they are just utterly disgusted by people who want to modify or change their body to make them feel comfortable. And then the second one is this I didn't have much to say about this, but they link their chest and their dysphoria to buboes of a plague victim, and link how to an average person their dysphoria is equivalent to grotesque plagues and disgusting things, basically. So I linked that there. Sorry, I'm just reading my notes.
That's okay.
Yeah, and I basically analyze. I've been in some capacity hoping to remove my breasts since they began to develop at the age of 10. They've always been unpleasant, ungainly, and extensious. I link this back to how many transgender people feel dysphoria at a very young age if they do not know, like, the term for dysphoria, what it means. That they still experience it, they just don't know how to label it. Then the next line is, I am not interested in breastfeeding. I do not value my breasts for contributing to my sexual attractiveness, and I do not care for them as markers of gender. I link this back to how in the medical professional world, it is extremely difficult for certain gender-affirming surgeries for AFAB people, which means a female, assigned female at birth, due to just the men in the industry thinking that a originally female body should only be used for birth or attractiveness or for the husband. Even women have struggles getting sterilized. If I booked a doctor's appointment and was like, I want to get sterilized at 18, they'd be like, no way, Jose, not until you've had at least a child. Or you're over 40. Like, it's just not happening. And that discrimination within the medical community happens within the transgender community as well. Then it goes on talking about dysphoria and how it, for some people, their chest just feels like it's unnatural and it's not a part of them. It's just wrong. And then the next part after that, they talk about how they feel disconnected to their body, and how it's contorted, bizarre, and half familiar of what I should be. Once again, talking about dysphoria. And then they go on to talk about how their body parts aren't necessarily what make up a woman, but it's more what causes them dysphoria. For example, men who have breasts are not women because they have breasts, and they go on to talk about that. And then they I actually like many parts of my body conventionally seen as feminine. My wide thighs, my narrow shoulders, my soft face. The problem is my breasts don't match the self I feel intuitively. And this goes on, I think, for a lot of non-binary people. It's not always as easy as transgender people in the binary, because it's a lot more individual, and certain traits that might deem you a certain gender may not have any dysphoria to you whatsoever, and you might actually like them quite a bit, but others do, and it's kind of a mismatch. Whereas a few transgender people within the binary often feel like there's kind of a set to go to body ideal, if that makes sense. If you want to present masculine, there are ways to do that. Not to say that all binary transgender people have dysphoria about all of their assigned traits at birth, but it's just more common. This one then goes to talk about how they cope with their dysphoria, and their experience with figuring out what transgender was, and the community. Sorry, and I basically link this back to the lack of education within primary schools and forms of education about transgender people, and how this can have a negative effect, because people can feel lost, they feel confused, they feel like they're all this wrong behaviours, not behaviours, but like they feel like they're wrong and they don't know why they're feeling like this, when there is a perfectly logical answer that we're just not taught from a very young age. And how this person goes into talking about how they found solidarity through watching horror movies, as they identified with the half monsters, half people on the screen, and how I knew what it was like to live in the betrayal of the body, talking about how your body is betraying you of who you are, and you just feel I link that back to gender envy towards like these creatures, and the relations between monsters and humans and non-binary genders. This one, sorry, 1 second. Oh yeah, this basically she goes on. They go on to talk about how they had hope within these grotesque like diseases, because if God could create such horrible monstrosities, then surely there would be a disease that would help me relieve my dysphoria. They also talk about how they would do if there was no disease that would help them, then they would just end up doing it themselves. And this shows how distressing it can be to go through dysphoria, especially when you don't know what dysphoria is, and especially through puberty, when all of the major changes happen and you don't want them to happen. It's a very distressing and confusing time to go through, and especially because, and I also linked it to how it's for transgender people, the waiting list on the NHS is so long. It's like 3 to 5 years, and to go private is just insanely expensive. That many people can't. So they have thoughts of self-mutilation a lot, and to try and do it themselves because it would be cheaper and quicker. And there was a quote: "Could I write the by God when He formed my body into this horror?" And I also link that to how religious trauma can cause people to feel like they're a wrong or they're a mistake. As someone who grew up in like Christian schools and was forced to go to church, I've from a very young age I was taught that sinners go to hell, and if you're a singer, you're a bad person. And as you grow up with that around you constantly, it's kind of, I'm an atheist now. Well, I like to think I am, but there's always this thought back in my head that I know I'm going to hell without a doubt. Because when transphobic people say, yeah, trans people are it's their choice to do this, it's their choosing to do this, and this is a sin, you're going to hell, God doesn't make mistakes. It kind of it causes more distress than it should, and I think especially with the lack of education, this just emphasizes it, and how you can feel not only dysphoria but also shame because of your gender identity, because of religious trauma. And I talked about that with the whole God when he formed my body into this horror. And then the next bit was, at first I tried weight loss and that toppled into bulimia. I thought perhaps I could starve and purge my body into something new. When that wasn't more working, I considered blades. I link this back to how gender dysphoria can bring such distress that it will lead to other mental illnesses, such as bulimia, depression, anxiety, and a whole bunch of other stuff that is just absolutely not a fun time at all. But I linked that to, yeah. And then they talk about their experience of wanting to self-mutilate their chest, and how it would just be easy, did it themselves, call an ambulance, and then they wouldn't bleed out for very long, and I could finally be empty. And this is, I've seen from on social media that this is quite a common experience within transgender people, because like I said before, the waiting list, especially in the UK, the waiting list for like top surgery even is 3 to 5 years, and it's just a bit ridiculous. And to go private, it's just thousands and thousands that many people do not have. So people all think about doing it themselves. And there's a semi joke that if you do it yourself, they have to finish it off, like in the emergency service, like ER. So I talked about that, and then they link it to a movie they saw. Mary breaches the boundaries of nature because she is asked to do so, and she and her clients revel in beauty of the bizarre. I linked this to that body modifications are an art in themselves, but this is also applicable to other art, that people will breach the boundaries of art and nature in themselves to create art that they just want to, because it makes them relatable, or just for the pleasure of art. So I linked that back to there. I think many are just a lot more enraged or confused when someone decides to make the bizarre a reality. Yeah. Also linking that back to transphobic people, and just, you know, people who are not fan of the bizarre. The scenes of his surgeries are majestic, peaceful, and celebratory. Close shots on the skin, cleaved neatly by a silver scalpel, and the slow stream of blood from the incision, white skin, red blood, silver blade, black gloves, and the simple, regal swelling of the classical piano and smooth violin in the background. Mary dubs the blood with a white bandage. The surgery room is clean, all muted grey, vinyl and stainless steel, composed and caring. Yeah, I link this to how it's so important to have transgender people and people who struggle with their gender identity in the media, because younger transgender people can relate to that and feel that's me. I'm not the only one, sort of thing, and how it can. Sorry, I'm just reading. Yeah, and to know that it's okay to change your body, and it's okay to have these feelings, and it's okay to be transgender, and it's so important to have that in the media, so there's not this whole stigma about transgender people, and like have this whole this stigma around them. This one, I enjoy seeing conflicts with which I identify, as well as being beautiful and loving portrayals of destruction found in Mary. I don't know how to pronounce that. This I didn't know how to short. This is this was when I got a bit tired late at night. I didn't know how to interpret this because it could be the conflicts between things that cause body dysphoria, or the conflicts because of how they identify. This is just, and then I said this relates to my theme, as it just answers the question as yes. Can body horror bring euphoria? Which they clearly are saying that their body horror is seen as beautiful and loving to them. And then they say, I enjoyed the aspects of transformation presented in body horror movies, but on bad days I crave the decay itself. This shows how the transformation is euphoric, but they might also have a sense of self-hatred and mental illness present. And then they go on to talk about their mental illnesses, and then they say it satiates my ever-present lurking desire to destroy my own body and finally quell the thing that has rebelled against my mind. So many different situations. I then related that to how mental illness feels like an imposter, that sometimes you just want to rot and decay, for plaguing life so much, even if that means taking it down with you. And you feel sometimes held back by this thing you can't control, and it just gets so frustrating. You can't do anything about it. You just want it dead. That talks about how, how mental illness can really bring you down, and you just want it gone. And how when they saw body horror, they felt like it was satisfying their need to destroy themselves and their mental illness. And then this goes back into the idea that medical professionals do not want to operate or medically transition non-binary people because they do not want certain aspects of this medical transition. They go into talking about cosmetic massage, I can't pronounce that word, on transgender men and transmasculine people who are not simultaneously undergoing hormone replacement therapy because of what is named the ick factor. This is a common problem, I think, that doctors will just refuse because they don't see non-binary genders as valid or trans enough. Like if someone wanted to get top surgery but didn't want the hormones, that's kind of like a, well, what are you doing sort of thing. So I linked that back to there. And then it says, I think of the protagonist whose body is rotting away around her, submits to a decomposition and uses her crumbling teeth to create sculptures. Her fingers fall off and she preserves them in jars. Her fetid flesh and blood matted hair becomes art, not because someone forced her to maim herself in that way, but because she decided to embrace her filthy stumble towards complete physical breakdown. And then I just talked about how I really loved this little quote because I think it's both related to me in the sense that I usually turn like my mental illness or my dysphoria into art, and how my experiences growing up and how I was always labelled a destructive child because I'd go around and break everything, not on purpose usually, but how that really had an impact on me, and how it kind of, I decided to take that aspect of my life and just turn it into something creative rather than hating myself for it, and just flipping that around. And The same goes with any insecurities you might have, is turning them into something you can appreciate and be beautiful, even if you think they're ugly. And then I didn't get around to annotating these ones, but yeah, that's where I stopped for that. I also did have another key text, but I haven't gone around to annotating that either. It's an interview with a guy called Sage Voen. That's less related to the theme, but rather his practice and personal relation, in a sense. Like, I can relate to a lot of his work themes and his work practice and his workspace, in a sense.
How did you meet that artist?
What, Sage Vo?
Yeah.
Oh, it's in a book. My mum got it for me. It's called, one second, Art Studio America, Contemporary Art Spaces. And there's a bunch of interviews with a bunch of different artists, and I just went through it until I found one, because I knew I wanted to essay and an artist. So.
Ah, interesting. So you've not met them in person or online? It's from.
Yeah, no, it's from a book. The interviewer was, I don't know if I can pronounce their name, Hosen Marsad. You know what? I'll show you.
Yeah.
Okay, let me turn my camera on. Oh, hello. Oh, okay. There we go. There you go. That's the
And what's
that.
title of the book?
Pardon?
What's the... Oh. Mate, have you've included that in your bibliography?
Yes, I have.
Okay, good. And obviously all the research and the essay in your bibliography as well.
Yes. Everything in my bibliography is up to date.
The way you've broken it down and analysed it in terms of the aesthetic and composition is very clear and transparent, and your analysis and the way you have spoken about the processes and detail and the physical and the mental is very, very clear and really interesting. And I really like the way that you have broken it down. And when it comes to moderation and marking, this is exactly the kind of thing in terms of hitting the criteria of M's and D's that UAL will be looking for. So in that sense, from a practical sense, it's brilliant. That's really, really strong. And the way that you have spoken about it as well. I know that you can record on Padlet, not for very long. I think it's only about 4 minutes.
Oh, what I do is I just upload it to YouTube, because you can have hour-long videos on there, and then I just post a link into my Padlet of the YouTube video.
Oh, that's a good idea, because I know that Charlie was recording and then editing, but Padlet doesn't allow you to have a very long
It's super annoying.
Yeah, it's not very good in that sense. If you're so what were you doing, recording in YouTube?
Well, what I usually do is save. Well, it depends what I'm doing. I usually just record on my camera and then edit the videos in an app called InShot, which is just like a cut and clip sort of thing. And then I just upload it to YouTube. And then once that's uploaded, I copy the link of that video and put it into a Padlet post.
Oh, that's good. Oh, that's really good. Make sure that you have that you put the entirety of this presentation into your Padlet, and I have recorded this lesson today, but you also talking about it with a peer or whoever, so that discussion and what comes from it is recorded. Do you have any live sources or know of anyone that would talk about or engage about their identity in terms of what you've been talking about and be willing to share their experiences?
Yeah, I have. There's this artist called Lara Bowles. I've looked at her a couple times in previous ones, and I can easily message her, and I think they would be willing to talk to me about their gender identity, because recently they've been focusing a lot of their work on their views on gender and their gender identity. So that's my plan to do.
Yeah, that would be really, really interesting. Yeah, your presentation and what you're discussing is really interesting, conceptual, to the point, and how you've broken it down in terms of theory and practical, and all your different personal thoughts and reflections, which UAL are wanting students at year 2 to be reflective and engage with live sources, which your presentation and what you've discussed already meets way beyond the criteria. So in that sense, it's really interesting, and I really, as I said, like the way that you've broken it down. What made you decide to look at this particular theme? Just because you're interested in it?
Yeah, I was just interested in it. One moment. I think I wrote it down in my sketchbook. I think because it was like in my ideas of what to do when we first started.
Yeah.
I had a few ideas. Underwater landscapes, gender identity, and horror in general, and a lot of almost all of my projects have been focused around horror, so I wanted to link gender identity and horror together. So that's what I wanted to do.
It's a very clever link, and the way that you've discussed and described it and put it together in the presentation is very sophisticated and well placed. Good. I'm really pleased. And the fact that you, in year 2, a lot of the assessment marks come from working independently, whereas last year it was more led by the tutor and things like that. Year 2 is more about independence of inquiry, independent investigation. So the moderator, myself, and UAL are looking for that within the work, which you're already showing, which is brilliant. How is your practical work linking to this, and what have you done so far?
Okay, let me get to it and I'll show you. Right, so I interviewed this artist. I don't know if I told you about this before, but I interviewed this artist. I really enjoyed their work in general. I think it's very visual pleasing and linking to my topic of like body mutilation and disfiguration. These were made.
I haven't seen this actually. No.
Okay. This will be cool then. Basically, they look into their self-containment and depersonalization. This is what this work is about. But they also do struggle with their gender identity, and they did talk to me a little bit about that in this little interview section here I did with them. This is just some more of their work. I really enjoyed it actually doing this. I did a response to it. This is just my planning down here. This is another one of a close-up detail of their work. And then I just went through and annotated my process of doing an artist response.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to do some more annotations still. But this was the final result. It's up there now.
Okay.
That's quite big. And then they also write poems to go with it. So I wrote my own little poem in response to that. So I did that, and that was my response. And then from that, I kind of got an idea of what I want to do for one of my final pieces already. So I'm just planning that out already.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. And then, yeah, I looked at this. I plan to experiment with silicone and latex, but that is to come. I interviewed them too about the use of silicone and to get some advice. And then I did some general life drawing from a website I used. And then I did a mood board for the painting that I'm going to do for one of my final pieces, and just added a bunch of materials and colour schemes that I wanted to use within my painting. A bit more planning. Oh, and then I also did some research on this artist called Yames. He does video games, and I really love the art style he uses and his art process, so I wanted to look into that. So I did some more artist researches and responses. I made a little animation and 2 drawings.
Yeah.
Just some more planning of my second final piece I want to do that I came up with. And then I did an experiment where I just took photos of myself and my insecurities and my dysphoria, and then I drew them, and that's what I've done so far. I do also and this is just my notes from today, but I need to do some more practical work. I'm just trying to think of what to do.
I spoke to Paul, and he said he was going to order in those materials.
Oh, cool.
I want you to talk to him again tomorrow to see what can be ordered and what he's what else you need in terms of what we can order, etc., and work with. So yeah, see him tomorrow when you're in around 10ish. In terms of what you've just shown me there and what I've seen before, it's coming together really well, more than really well. Lots of independent work. Make sure that you said you had some life drawing and observational work, which is great. And ensure that you have the assessment criteria, and you're looking at the grade that you are working towards, and that you're going through the learning outcomes, and also on the brief where it's I think there's 7, the 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, you're going all through that.
Okay.
And ensuring that you have got that through the body of work. But what you've shown me so far, and the presentation today, and all your independent work, is looking more than strong. So that's really pleasing. I think tomorrow, focus on practical experimentation, and working with materials that link and frame discussions from your presentation and what your work is about. Good. I'm really, really pleased. That's great. Have you found any I know you've got essays and key tech. Have you found any actual physical books that you have read, or anything around the topic?
Not so much around the topic, but the interview that was in the book of Art Studio America and Contemporary Spaces, that's the one I got from the book. Is that okay, or do I need to find an actual book about gender identity? I did try to find a book that talked about the euphoria of gender and focused mainly on that, but absolutely raucous. I paid £10 for it, and I didn't actually read it properly, and it's still in the development thing, and I was just like, oh my god. So I didn't actually get the book, I will get
Oh,
it in like July. I'm like, well, that's not useful to me now. So that was a bit rubbish, but I am still on the lookout.
yeah, keep on the lookout, and I'll have a look as well and see through my research and things, and if I can recommend anything, I think that will be good as well. But what you've got so far, it is more than enough at this stage. It would just be good to have an actual, book
Yeah.
looking at that. But in terms of everything else, um, working towards the high end grade, the assessment criteria. Also, have you downloaded and amended the? Oh, I put up the FMP Unit 13 organised planner. You know, when you have
Oh, yeah, I
uh,
haven't done that yet, not yet, but I will
yeah,
start.
that's the practical thing, in terms of recording what you've done, what you've done, sorry, every day, date, time, place, tools, materials, discussions, the presentation today. So use my digital one that I
Okay.
uploaded and just change the dates and bits and bobs, and you can use that one. That's more of a practical thing. And then keeping a list as you go along, that's Harvard referenced of your bibliography.
Yeah, I've got that.
But in terms of subject and work, really interesting, and an area of research that I'm really interested in myself. So that's interesting. And I think tomorrow, bringing things to the fore in terms of materiality and what mediums, definitely, definitely silicon, rubber, liquid, resin, maybe plaster, wax, latex. I think definitely all those mediums, and to working with those for experimentation and towards final pieces is definitely the route or pathway to go down. Good. How do you feel about the project so far, your FMP so far, in
Good.
terms of
I mean, it's going
where
pretty
it's headed?
smoothly. I'm really interested in it. I'm quite
Yeah.
engaged. It's exciting to do. I'm not like, oh, I've got to do work. So that's good.
Yeah, that comes across actually in terms of your passion and your presentation. Good. Just keep going with it. Yeah, I'm really pleased. And I think that the rest of your peer group, from watching your presentation, things will become, I think, a bit clearer in terms of, that's how I need to analyze, or that's how I need to put things together, or that's what Hazel means about looking at medium and theory and making sure it links, and all those sorts of things. I think it would be good for you to also, and maybe through our University of East London contacts, working with an undergraduate, not necessarily working on who's interested in the same thing, but getting their perspective on things as well, I think would be really interesting, and interviewing them as a primary source for your project, and having
Yeah.
that discussion with an undergraduate will bring a different angle. UAL won't be expecting it in that sense, but giving a different perspective to things as well, I think would be, and I'll set that up. I'm speaking to Pauline, I think, on Thursday. So we could set that up quite easily, and I think that would be really interesting to get their perspective and viewpoint on it.
Yeah.
Another dimension, I think, would be really good. Good. Oh, okay. Safia, are you ready to present your the theory behind your FMP and your presentation?
Not really. I'm still writing up a bit of notes.
Okay. Adam, are you ready? Do you have anything to show and discuss?
Me, I Not really. I mean, I know what I want to do, and my search just, I don't know. I don't like it presented in online.
Okay. Who have we got here? Charlie, Hannah, Jessica. Jessica, can you share the screen and discuss the theory, key text, and essay behind your FMP work?
Yeah. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, there we go. Okay. Those are my LIPs for this week and my plan for this week. So this is a poem, one of the poems I found that links to my theme, which is are humans social animals? And I like this poem because it's a contrast between humans and animals. So and how humans have a certain desire to compare to animals. And I like that there's a clear difference between how humans, how the way of live, how humans live and the way how animals live. And I was just trying to find the sentence. How animals don't make money, yet they have a great dignity of labor. Men make money, some work hard, and some without any labor at all. And so that's the first poem. The second poem, I think, links more to my theme, and because of the repetition of I'm a social animal, I'm a human, and I'm a part of this nature. And it's how we need one another to survive and thrive, and how we need to communicate and interact with others. And it links to COVID and lockdown, which is something that I want to include within the project, as lockdown has had an impact in our social life and social communication. This is an essay that I also have looked into, and it just basically explains how we need one another to live, and how we need society to be able to live. And then there's also examples of people who haven't lived in with society as they are like experiments. So there's people who have been brought up alone or with a sibling, and they've got no communication, unable to talk or walk, and how this has impacted their life. And yeah.
Where did you find the essay?
Online.
Okay. I like the idea of you researching the relationship between human and animal sort of behaviour and social aspects in terms of interaction and nature versus nurture and evolution and all those things. What gave you that idea for your FMP? Where did that come from?
Well, I was thinking of the social aspect,
Yeah.
Can you say the question again, please?
So where did the idea come from? What made you interested in the relationship between humans and animals?
Well, originally I looked at the quote, man is a social animal.
Yeah.
And then I was
yeah.
I was thinking of looking at tigers or lions and butterflies, like social butterfly.
Yeah.
And how a social butterfly could be seen as a human, or a tiger or a lion, as it's very social. You need, as a community, like animals, tigers and lions work together as a team, and humans need that too.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And the psychology behind it, patterning, imprinting, living, community, how we interact, and the similarities and differences. Yeah, that I find interesting between. I'm assuming you've looked at man and how evolution says that we come from, the land of apes and monkeys and things like that. And people's beliefs around that, or arguments against and for that. Include that if you haven't. And also where we originate from historically. What practical work, or how are you going to link your practical work to this, and what have you done so far?
I've done some practical work, but not ones that necessarily link to the theme. But I've written ideas. I have some ideas what I want to do. So I was thinking some silhouettes of people, continuous, like a lot of people, but silhouettes. Another one was collage. Another one was eyes, and how we communicate with eyes, through our eyes, and another one was loose drawing of people, mark making. And then I also thought of drawing half human and half another animal. But those are the ideas I've got so far.
I think look at imprinting and marks that humans and animals leave behind in terms of semiotics, in terms of the trace, the indexical, footprint, what we leave behind in terms of the physical, and imprinting behavior, I think would be interesting. And you could see that through mark making, and abstract mark making. I think you would really benefit as well from speaking to some of the undergraduates from University of East London, and how they could look at your practical work in a contemporary sense, and link that and give you ideas further, and link that to your theme. So I'm going to put you in touch next week with some of those students and set up some meetings. I think that would be really useful and interesting, and getting their perspective as well on you also, because you don't want to go down the obvious route of drawing animals and things. You want to make it more about mark making and imprinting and pattern. So initially could start to look at printing, different printing techniques, layering, collage, as you've said, combining all those different ideas and creating a kind of mixed media collage slash print that sort of captures all those different ideas, but staying away from physically drawing animals, and in a sense, because I think that will be too obvious and not really what you're trying to say. And I think from that point, speaking to some of the undergraduates would really contextualize that in a practical sense. And I think tomorrow, when you come in, we could talk about that more in terms of materiality and what particular mediums would express aesthetically your theme and what you want to say and how you want it to look. Yeah, it's really interesting. I like your theme in terms of human imprinting and humans and animals as social beings. It's interesting. Have you put all of this onto your Padlet?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Good. That's good. Does anybody have any questions for Jessica, or ideas or targets, or any primary sources that you think might link? You could put together. Yes.
I was just going to suggest, if you did want to focus on maybe not so much drawing animals, but maybe, I'm not sure how much into character design you are, but maybe you could do a couple illustrations of people that are inspired by animal characteristics and their animal societies. For example, if you were going to do a lion, you would draw like a male and present how in the animal kingdom how lions are presented, if that makes sense, and how their society works versus ours. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I like the idea of the illustrative and somehow, yeah, linking that through representation or non-representation. That's quite interesting. And looking at characteristics, I definitely think that could be something that you explore, Jessica.
Yeah.
And how to show characteristics through illustration and mark making, and maybe combining that would be a way forward. It might be a case of looking at those experiments that look like the psychological experiments that you've done before.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the whole butterfly effect, and then the illustrative somehow combined with that, I think would be interesting. Do you have any questions that you want to ask me? Oh, Safia, do you have a question for Jessica?
Jessica could check out the book by George Orwell, Animal Farm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's where, like, I think it was between human and animals, if they can be equal, and like a society where they can be free, which I feel has a lot of, symbolism, meaning, animalism, which is it's a good book.
Yeah, I read it when I was 11 at secondary school. I think I might have a copy here actually. Yes, that definitely. Have you read it or heard of it, Jessica?
I've heard of it, but I haven't read it.
Okay, get your hands on a copy, or download on Spotify for free or something, or from the internet, and get reading it. Yeah, I think that's a good starting point as well.
Yeah.
And look at looking framing society and inequality and how that's viewed. Good. Who else? Hannah. Are you ready to present your theory behind your FMP?
Okay. I can, yeah. Hold on. Is it sharing? Can you see?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so I didn't do as much detail as Bunny did, but I gave
Don't
a
worry
little
about that.
summary on each of my key texts. So the first one, my first key text is an essay on anxiety of death in the elderly. I found this on a website called UK Essays. I can pull it up now if I go here. Oh, yeah, and I just sort of typed into the search bar, anxiety, death, and elderly, and this just sort of threw up under scholarly articles. It doesn't have an author, annoyingly. I did have a little look, but there's no author for this. But yeah, this looks at the psychology behind it. And what I found after reading it was that younger people were more likely to suffer with anxiety of death as opposed to older people, which I suppose makes sense. You don't really think that would be the case because, like, you think, young people, they're so full of life, blah blah blah. But really, when you're so young and you've not lived much, the idea of death and you dying soon is quite frightening because you want to live more. Whereas if you're older, you've lived a full life maybe, and so it's probably less scary and less intimidating. And this just sort of goes into that, and they talk about lots of different experiments and studies to support that evidence. And this was actually really, really influential on my project, just because I thought I was going to take it down the route of looking at elderly people primarily and how they feel about death and how they feel about life and regrets and whatnot. But really, what this has shown me is that I need to shift my focus more into younger people because they suffer with it. They suffer with aging, the scary thought of aging and death more. So yeah, that's my first one.
Yeah, I'd agree with that because people that I've spoken to of a more mature age, 60s, 70s,
Yeah,
generation, aren't afraid of, these are just people that have family and things like that. When I was talking
yeah,
about your theme, none of them were afraid of aging or death, really, because they overall they came back to me with they'd had quite a fulfilling, fueled sort of existence, life, and I wondered if that was because of the times they grew up in, the economy. They've almost had the best of things, if that makes sense, whereas
yeah,
new generations and younger generations being born into a pandemic, the economy at the moment, instability. So say my parents' generation were able to afford to buy their own home, and things like that. And since then, it's been a bit of a downward spiral. Not for everyone, so I don't want to generalize, but I think that had a massive impact on the fear of death because everyone I spoke to sort of were homeowners and they traveled, been around the world, they felt like they'd done everything. Whereas younger people actually that I've spoken to in my family and younger cousins are worried about money, death, security. Will we have these things? We won't have these things as our parents have. And it's affected or skewed their perceptions on aging, death, the future. Yeah, it's quite interesting.
I think also what with the climate crisis, kids nowadays are like scared because people say, oh, we've got until 2050 and then it's all irreversible. And so there's like this imminent threat of, you know, the world ending for us. And so we can't really look to the future, like to our 80s, our 60s, our 70s, our 80s, because that's threatened by climate change. So that just adds to it.
Mm.
Okay, so shall I move on to my second?
Yeah.
Okay, so my second is a book, and I found this one last week because Safia, when I was talking about my key text, Safia said, "Oh, do you have a book that on your subject?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know." So I had a little look in my book case wardrobe thing, and I have a book, and it's called Being Mortal. And I got this book like 2 years ago, I think. Or a bit ago, and it's about philosophy and medicine and dealing with patients in palliative care, and it's from a surgeon's perspective. And it's I've yet to read it, just because I've had other books and whatnot. But this is the guy who wrote the book, and this is just a review of it. But it's from what I read on the back, it looks really, really interesting, and it looks like it'll be very, very helpful in forming my project. And I'm planning on starting and finishing the book within 2 weeks. So I read 20 pages every single night, and then I analyze those 20 pages and annotate them in my sketchbook and diary. At the end of those 14 days, I'll summarize and give my review of the book and how I intend to use it in my project to inform all kinds of things. But yeah, that's...
this is exciting. I've had a student that's looked at this area before. I don't know if she looked at this particular book, but things around it. I haven't read it, but I've heard about it and wanted to read it for a while. Yeah, really interesting because it's from his perspective.
Yeah.
And around palliative care, which will be quite really interesting as well, I think. When are you going to start reading it?
Tonight.
Okay, good. I wonder how it's written. That's quite interesting.
Yeah, I think it's because I've read other books by doctors who do it in a sort of a diary form.
Yeah.
This doesn't seem to be how he's laid it out. I think he's just sort of, I'm not sure actually. It's not a diary form. I think it's just sort of chapters on different parts, on different sort of areas, like the independent self, assistance. Yeah.
Okay.
It looks really interesting.
Yeah, very.
Yes. So I wasn't sure because I did a questionnaire earlier on in my project, almost basically straight away, and that I wasn't like, I mean, I'm not really sure if that can count as a key text, but for me, it was again really, really influential on my project because it helped to kind of steer and look at specific areas that, you know, people who answered the questionnaire were worried about or whatever. Let me go back on. Oh no, that's the wrong one. Let me go back onto here and I'll show you my questionnaire. Anyways, I sort of did it on aging and death.
Yeah.
And this really helped because I didn't, you know, because it's such a broad subject and there's a lot you can do with it. I wanted to narrow it down and look at, you know, the specifics. And so I thought asking people about aging and death would help with that and help narrow down and look at certain areas that I found interesting or would be quite popular among people.
Yeah.
But for me, that was just really, really, really great in informing the direction my project would take. And it made me want to go down the route of religion and afterlife because there seems like there's still quite a lot of people who do believe in heaven and hell and and thinking that they will be judged at the end of their life. And I think because I'm an atheist, I don't interact with a lot of religious people, and so I kind of just sort of, I don't really think, oh, that's not really a thing anymore, but it still is, obviously. But yeah, I think this was really important for me and my project.
I would put that in as a key, not key text, but a key activity, task,
Okay.
and your starting point, definitely, yes. And almost your key question or your key, what you were trying to find out. Yeah, it's really important.
That's really all I have for my key text, but I do want to get another one that specifically looks at religion and afterlife.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'll look at another essay or I'll broaden.
Yeah.
My sort is a bit more like Jessica did with like a poem or something like that. But I think that's really crucial in getting that in there, because when I do focus more on death and afterlife, I think that'll be very, very important in helping me, have a path with that. So yeah.
Yeah. Really. What are those other slides that you've got above it? Are they is that practical work?
Yeah, this is just my updated sketchbook, and I've just done that's practical work and whatnot. It's not, that's it really. That's what my you know what I'm saying.
Because I was going to ask you, how have you related particular mediums or materiality, and what practical work have you done so far?
Yeah, so you mentioned an artist, Nan Goodin, I think a couple of weeks ago to research, and then I finally got around to doing her, and I really liked her work. And I've never really done photography or used photography as a medium in my work before, because I thought, I don't know, I just never really liked it. I never felt like it was, I just didn't really like the way it was, and I don't think I could take pictures very well. But I really liked her work. I thought it was really cool. And it's sort of, if you look on her website on her website, it's just tons and tons of pictures that are kind of documenting her life. And I think that's really, really cool. And not all of them involve her. There are other individuals and subjects, and it explores lots of different topics and themes, which is very interesting. She's not just got one path that she's looking at. It's very broad. So I really like that. And I'm not really allowed, obviously we can't go out and whatnot. So I couldn't take a picture from an aeroplane. I couldn't go to a drag night or whatever, So I kind of just worked with whatever I had in my room and house. But yeah, with in this picture, she's got her pills and medicine all on the floor, but I don't really have a stash of medicine I can just chuck on the floor. So I just I have my washing on the floor. So I just took a picture of that because I thought, it's kind of the same. And then I just wanted to take pictures of just observing my sister and my mum, because she does pictures like that too. This one is of a guy, and this one here too. And they're quite candid. A lot of people don't really know that they are that the photograph is being taken. So I quite like that. So I try to do the same thing. Flowers, just flowers in my room, and then the sky.
What's that bottom photo with the flowers in the boot?
Oh, that's that just, oh gosh, that sits on my desk. I got that for my birthday recently. One of my birthday presents was I don't remember the name of the shoe company.
I love the photo.
Yeah, it's nice. I like it.
I really like it. And for some reason I thought that was the artist's work, just because
No, just me sodding about in my room.
Yeah, the way that the boot was placed, I just thought that's very much like her work.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And what's that one with the flowers, or it looks like yellow.
Yeah, this is my mum. Oh, let me bring that forward.
Mm.
This is my mum. She's reading a newspaper, but as we all know, it's Women's History Month. And the flowers that you see in this photo are, I think it's the flower that represents women and in feminism and all that. So I thought that was pretty apt. But my
I
mum.
like that.
Yeah.
I like that image a lot, and the boot one.
Yeah.
They're really good. I do like the clothes as well, actually, on the floor. And who's that by the piano?
That's my younger sister. She plays piano.
I like that shot as well.
Yeah. She's a wonderful player, but she doesn't like me taking pictures or videoing her. She gets quite self-conscious, so I had to like kind of move around unsuspiciously.
I really like that image. Yeah.
Yeah.
The piano, the boot, and the one of your mum. I think they're really strong. Really like them.
Yeah, thank you.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very. I thought you'd like the artist's work.
Yeah, I do. I think it's wonderful. I especially like this image. The one I'm pointing at is of a Madonna impersonator at a drag show in Hong Kong, and I just love it so much. It's so like aesthetically pleasing to me. The image isn't very clear in my sketchbook because my printer was playing up. But yeah, if you look it up online, it's really wonderful. Yeah, I love her work. It's great. So that's my research, and then this was just outside sketchbook work.
I
really struggle a bit with doing this sort of stuff because I'm a perfectionist, but also I kind of struggle with doing something for a very long time, like keeping my attention for a very long time on a specific piece of work. So a lot of my outside pieces or primary drawings are just really quick sketches and things that haven't taken me a lot of time.
I quite like that though.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think they're a bit shoddy sometimes, but they're all right. But yeah, these are a lot. I think all of them are observational. I made sure to do that.
The top middle one, it looks like a lamp or something.
Oh yeah. That's my I have a lamp in my room, a tulip lamp from the 1970s.
I love that.
Nice. And I did a quick painting with pen and watercolor. Yeah.
I just really like that. I think it's quite interesting where you've spoken about the time and the concentration and maybe making a series of work that do aesthetically look quite scrappy. But I think there's something interesting in that.
Yeah.
I love.
So that's that page, and then I couldn't fit all of them on there. And so I just did more. I'm drawing my dad at the moment. This is like one of the ones that I'm working on, like trying to make look good. He looks terrible right now. I've done him so dirty. And he looks like Uncle Fester, but he doesn't in real life. He does not. He has hair. He has a nice smile. But yeah, it doesn't look very good right now. Yeah. But that's him. And then just a worn-in shoe. That I plonked on a chair. And then my sister made me a crown for my 18th birthday last year, and it sits at the bottom of a memory box in my room. So I thought I'd just draw that quickly. So that's it.
I think you should explore more the photography side of things, definitely. Yeah, I think you've got an eye for it. I love those photos. I think they're really strong. And play around with scale, size, objects. I definitely think you should be doing that. Yeah, they're great. Where's that boot? That's very just odd. I love it.
Yeah, I know.
Is it a real boot that you've spray painted?
No, I have to. I'll just let me get. It's from a shoe place. It's from a shoe company that just sells lots of shoes, but they also do these weird little vases of their shoes, and it's. I think it's called Nodel. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna butcher it. Nodel. No, I'm not even gonna try. But it begins with an N. It's like Nodaletto, something like that. But they do these cool, funky shoes.
Yeah.
And
I
it's just,
thought you'd connected really odd objects and place them together. That's what I just really like it.
yeah. My mum's got a lot of really odd vases and whatnot that just sort of sit in our front room, and she's like plopped hydrangeas in them, and they look really cool.
Who's got that? Are they yours or are they your mum's?
That boot is mine, but the vases downstairs are my mum's. But they're really weird and cool, and I like them.
You should do something with those and photograph those.
Yeah, I will. Yeah.
Love. Great. And how are you finding doing the project so far?
Pardon?
How are you finding doing your FMP so far?
It's all right. I think like I'm just sort of struggling a bit with trying to organize my sketchbook, because I have in my head like how I want it to be laid out in terms of like I'll look at aging first and then I'll do death, because if I mix them then I fear it will get a bit like there won't be a flow to my project and people won't really know what's going on. And so I split them so I can look at them in greater detail. But I'm just trying to like figure out, because I have a lot that I want to do, because I'm thinking about looking at Greek mythology and stuff like that. And it just, there's a lot, and I'm just trying to plan it out so that it makes sense in my sketchbook.
Yeah, we can go over that tomorrow and sit together one-to-one and go through that to make sure that it flows and it connects effectively.
Yeah, I won't be in tomorrow. I think I told you this last week because of my hospital appointment.
Yeah. It'll be next week then. Next week. But in the meantime, update me pictures of your work and we can go through it. Does anybody have any questions for Hannah, or targets, ideas, what you could do for practical work, books? Safia, have you got any ideas for Hannah?
Not really, no.
Bunny, anything? Developing practical work?
I'll have a think, and I'll talk to Hannah a little bit later. But I'm still trying to think.
Okay, I'll put you on the spot there. Anybody else? Charlie, are you ready to present? Or I saw your Padlet. I think you sent me something through yesterday. Are you able to present anything? I don't think you are you? Because you might be at work. Can you hear me, Charlie? Hello? No. Okay. Bunny, Safia, Elizabeth, Adam, Hannah, Jessica, Charlie. I have recorded all of this. What I want you to do is to make sure that your presentation is linked in one way or another to your Padlets, and obviously in your sketchbooks, and record the feedback. You can replay this and make sure that that is all together. Obviously, I'll be seeing you all tomorrow in ONE2, so we can get started on installations, silicon work, putting things together, eyes. Adam, we need to go through and make sure that you've got everything finished for formative units and where you are with the exam work. Safia, I'll need to see your presentation.
Hazel,
Yeah.
can I do my presentation now? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, let me share the screen. Hold on. Can you guys see it?
Yeah.
Okay, so for my FMP, I will be focusing on departing from the conscious of mind, and I'm focusing on this essay by Consciousness as Existence by Ted Hondrick and the artist Hilma af Klint. Yeah, so from this excerpt, sorry, let me just read through the notes. Yeah, so this essay is leaning to the side of empiricism, where you need observational proof. And Hilma af Klint, this artist, is more towards ontological. She uses spiritualism, transcending from the physical world. And my argument is, why can't we verify things from concept, stories, sense, and reality? Why can't we depart from empiricism and lean more towards ontological? Yeah, that's mine. Sorry.
I was going to say, what practical work have you? How have you linked that?
Oh, I'm doing a mark making, like a bookbinding sketchbook, my own sketchbook, and it's more abstract, leaning towards abstract. So it's quite different from my old work.
Yeah.
Because I don't really do a lot of abstract pieces, I feel like. Yeah.
Ooh, is this your work here?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. That's quite a departure for you.
Yeah, very abstract. I don't really do abstract at all, to be honest. I looked back. So right now I'm focusing more like Hilma af Klint. She does a lot of abstract pieces. They're like non-representational. It doesn't really have a body or like no conceptual thinking. It's just more conscious of mind, transcending from the physical world. Yeah. And I'm doing like mixed media. So this is like a book binding. I mix like clay, ink, glaze, acrylic, calico fabric, crayon, digital sculptured pieces. Yeah. So it's going to be a series. I'm going to make a final piece, a series of book binding sketchbooks, all handmade. Yeah.
I like that. And what size is
Yeah,
it?
that's it. Hazel, you broke up. You're breaking up a bit.
Can you hear me now?
Barely, just slightly breaking up.
What size is the book that you're making?
So this is like a prototype, an experiment. This is, I think, in A5, but I'm going to lean more towards like a larger scale, probably like A3 or A2. If I can, I'll try to make it bigger. Yeah.
I like the size A5. Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
And I like that image. It works really well. What's the name of the artist you're looking at again?
It's Hilma af Klint. I think she's Swedish. She's a Swedish artist, a spiritualist artist. So she does like a lot of seances.
Okay.
Yeah. Especially, I think, what era was it? 1900s, 1000s? I don't remember the era. Yeah, she's a female artist from the era.
Okay. Have you spoken? You need to interview Aprina because she looked at elements, especially the spiritual FMP last year. And I think that would be interesting. And the way that Aprina works as well is different but has some similarities. I think that connect with Aprina. It's a shame she isn't here in the lesson.
Mhm.
I am here.
Oh, sorry, Aprina. You don't come up on my. It hasn't come up on my screen as you being there. That's weird. Have you been here the whole time, Aprina?
Yes, I put my hand up, but no one answered.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see it. That's weird. Oh, how odd. When were you putting your hand up? Just a minute ago.
Oh no, earlier with Jessica's questions, like to help her out, but I already sent her a link to a video that would help her research.
Oh, sorry, I didn't even see that you were in the lesson. That's odd. I definitely think you and Aprina should collaborate in terms of maybe work and ideas tomorrow when you're in the studio. I think would be really interesting.
What,
And
like
actually,
more spiritual collaboration, like spiritual collaboration, abstract pieces?
and
Yeah.
maybe making for one afternoon work together that's somehow linked and doing a small little collaborative project for an afternoon would be quite interesting.
So you're breaking up.
Can you hear me now?
Sorry, Hazel. Yeah, could you repeat that again? Because, yeah.
I think it'd be good if you and Aprina work together on a small collaborative project tomorrow afternoon based on that theme and make a series of works and then share that on your Padlets. I think would be interesting.
Okay.
Oh, good. Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Safia? More ideas? No? Aprina, are you ready to present your contextual and essay and theme behind your FMP?
Yes.
Okay.
Give you 1 second to get ready.
Okay.
Let me see. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so sorry. I currently don't have an essay, but I do have a poem as my key text.
Okay, yeah.
So my FMP focuses on my FMP focuses on escapism. That's the main theme of my essay. So if I move forward here. Sorry. I'm gonna do. What I did was I analyzed the poem called "Shapeston" by a poet called Ria April Avalon, and as I said, it's gonna analyze her work, which would most likely inspire my future creations of my works. So this is like sections of a poem. So this first bit says, "Hear muffled sounds, deafening sounds of reverie's lullabies, as I reach spaceless bounds of welcome purple skies." So I analyzed the meaning or the interpretation behind her poem, and for this part indicates that the subject is falling into a daydream that is lulling them in like a lullaby, dreaming of pretty sunsets, drenched clouds with a purple tone. And then for this section, I analyzed, yes, I live just this way, but it's an illusion fake, and I curse the damn day that finds me to wake me. And so the subject clearly doesn't want to leave the daydream they're in, but at the same time, they're self-aware that this is not real and that they're in for a real shock when the reality finally consumes them. So what I mean by consumes is like when they finally wake up, when they finally come out of the daydream and reality is present, it's all around them, there's nowhere like to go. So I was thinking that I would use the nature of these texts to create large A3, maybe A2 drawings outside my book in a whimsical dreamlike nature, or which would link back across to my escapism theme. And for this bit, I analyzed the quelling silent screams all alone, listing paper dreams on my own. And I said, clearly the subject of the poem is going through emotionally or mentally, something emotionally or mentally. They may be possibly lonely and trying to stop the cries in their head by recalling daydreams whilst in this time of loneliness. And I'm sick of this absurdism, what's the way it is, escapism. The subject has finally realized that maybe it's time to stop running. Maybe it's time to face the problem head on. So as I said before, I was thinking of doing A3 drawings that could symbolize like each half of the stanzas. I also I mostly want to look for artists that combine the techniques of Salvador Dali and Edvard Munch. Some of the surrealist flair of Dali, but the fever dream / frenzied aesthetic of Edvard Munch. I really like how for the Scream by Edvard Munch. I like the colors, like the kind of rustic tones to it. The sky, especially the background behind the subject. I really like that. It kind of has like I said in the text, a fever dream like kind of aesthetic to it, which I find quite appealing, which I could use to in like elements of my work to show like more of a maybe not a full-on discovery side of escapism, but something similar. But I also want to mix it with something like Ship Butterfly by Salvador Dali, where it's kind of surreal, like it's kind of dreamlike with like certain elements. Also, for this one, dreams are shattered, what could be worse? Doom of the life and fetter, filled with the same remorse. So the subject now has returned from their daydreams and now present in reality, but the sudden flood of remorse they now have to face it. Reality acting as the chains and / restraint, holding them in place with nowhere to run. So at this point, the person has nowhere to go. They're confronted with reality and it's all around them. So I was thinking of, as I said before, do some like practical work around this poem.
Also, the subject is struggling. Sorry, I didn't read the poem. Fight or surrender, shields of defender. I'm helpless at anything. Thoughts of despair twirl in the air. I'm losing my everything. So the subject is struggling at a mental crossroad on whether to fight off the feeling or surrender to it with so it washes himself with it. However, they feel the despair eating away at them. They're spiraling. So at this point, the subject is struggling to uh, face the reality. They can't stand the fact that they're kind of like consumed by it, and it's the fact that they can't do anything about it. It sends them into like a spiraling state. And yeah, these are my ILPs this week. I'll research the artists are a blend of Dali and Munch. Use the BBC Click program as a source of research. Escapes in video games. To explain that one, I saw in the news there's a section of the news called Click, and it looks at technology and various other things related to technology. And for that segment, it showed like a kind of like not documentary, but it explained like basically what was it? How the effects of video games, especially during the pandemic, when we don't have like a lot of social contact going on, how video games can help with that, or help like kind of escape the current reality is now. And it also goes into the scientific facts about whether video games are like good for you or not. I also want to, as I said again, produce large pieces of work outside my book. And I also want to create a work schedule to follow down to the T and upload all my current work to Padlet.
Where did you find the poem from?
I found it from a website called poetrysoup.com.
Okay. Yeah, I really like the poem, and I like how you have interpreted it and analysed it in such a personal, kind of meaningful interpretation. Had you thought about writing your own poem?
No, but I would be down to do that. I'd definitely love to do that.
Yeah, I think for tomorrow, when you're in ONE2, to start ideas and get together to write your own poem, and then producing artworks with Safia in collaboration, but also in response to some key lines or some words that you've got together for your your own poem, I think would be really interesting. Sorry. What you need to have as well, I like the fact that you've started from a poem. I think that really suits the nature of your work. Yes, Safia.
I have a suggestion, like 2 artists for Aprina. They do like escapism and surrealism. Max Ernst and Vasily Kandinsky. Yeah, both. They do like surrealism, escapism, abstract. But I feel Aprina leans more towards Max Ernst because she was talking about Salvador Dali.
Yeah.
So I feel she should look at these 2 artists. Yeah.
Yeah, and Paul Clay as well. KLEE. Look at all of those, Aprina. I think will be informative. Have you looked at those artists before?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I think they will be really informative artists to embed in terms of your contextual research. You could look at some of the artists you looked at last year's FMP, but also start to think about an essay and key text that you could use for your project as well as the poetry. What practical work have you done so far?
Okay, give me a second. So I wanted to do more, but it kind of took a little long. So this is one of them. So I use primary sources and try. It's kind of difficult to find primary sources for escapism, so I had to go more on the symbolistic kind of side of things. So this is like a primary source of me reaching my hand up to the sky. So basically, the meaning of this digital painting is, by the way, it's A3, is the strong links between clouds and escapism and like floating away, kind of, and also like the hand kind of represents like the longing to like, escape from reality, if that makes sense as well. Yeah. And I just wanted to work outside my book, so I decided to find an alternate way to do that since I didn't have paper. So I used a digital app called File Packer, which is this one at the bottom where my arrow is.
Yeah.
So I decided to try to make more. I also have another one, which is this one. Sorry. This one is a picture I took of my sister sitting on the couch, and she's holding her laptop. On my mind map, I put social media on video games as a form of escapism. So I thought that it'd be like interesting to just capture it in the moment, a form of it. So I drew my sister on the couch. What else?
I like the muted colours.
Oh, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a picture of The Sims 4. It's a game like it's a simulation game basically. So the player is in control of a sim, which is basically the equivalent of a human person. Yes, and you get to control their lives, who they date, how their needs. You need to take care of them as well. So I thought that was another good thing to draw, because sims could be seen as a form of escapism, because usually in escapism, people are trying to escape unpleasant or like boring realities. So having the Sims allows you to change that. You can become famous. You can own a shop. You can have as much money as you want. It's basically like a kind of virtual paradise in a way. And so I drew the front. I drew what was on my laptop, because I have the game myself, of the cover art for when it's downloading. So I drew that. If I go the other direction, okay. And the last piece that I did was a drawing of this clock. Basically, in my living room, we have this old dusty clock from our old house that just sits behind the TV stand. So I dragged it out and I drew a picture of it on my laptop. So I wanted to represent the kind of frozen aspect of escapism in terms of time. So I drew this clock. It kind of represents like how when you're dreaming or whenever you're escaping from reality, how sometimes time seems to slow down. And it seems to freeze in place, sort of. So I thought it'd be interesting as well to draw that, as well as the dust representing the fact that how long, like, probably the person has been in like that state, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I really like that drawing of the clock. It's interesting, and just the colours and just how it looks. I just really like it. And your explanation of it is interesting. And the fact that it was a dusty old clock from another home to this home, and it's about time standing still and you've moved the clock, is quite interesting. Did you do this in Illustrator?
No, I did this on an app called Firepacker, which is this.
Oh, interesting. Like, yeah, I really like that. You could work on a series of them, and have lots of these clocks. I think that's quite interesting.
I could possibly I could print them out and then kind of like do like some kind of collage or like one photo montage or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. Interesting. What when you're in tomorrow, where do you see your work going and developing? What do you want to do in the studio?
What do to be honest, I'm not quite sure yet. I'm still trying to think of pieces that I could make in the studio.
That's
Currently.
part of everybody's independent homework today is going to be thinking about, when you come in tomorrow and get started, what materials you want to work with, what ideas you have and how you want to see them through, so that each lesson that you're in college, 9 to half 6, you avoid time wasting, everybody, but also so that you are planning what you're going to be doing before you enter the studio, so you've got an idea of materials, concepts, how it links to theory. Your homework for today will be to go away and think about what you want to work on tomorrow, how you're going to set your space up, what materials are required, what you want to have made, produced, in development, finished by the end of the session. Because now that we're back in college, and you've got access to obviously the studio and materials and mediums, I want you to really think succinctly and clearly about what you want to produce, how you're going to do it, the time frame, getting things produced in that set time. Because the one day, Wednesdays, sorry, in the studios, and then Tuesdays online. So you need to make the most of that time span, and working also on techniques and methods and processes, and using your time really effectively. So one of the homeworks will be to plan that, and exactly what the outcomes, the physical outcomes, materials, what you want to have made, what you want to have put together, how you want to experiment, recording and documenting. And your second part of the homework will be to write up on your Padlet in a Word document all the peers' presentations from today, in terms of aims, objectives, strengths and weaknesses, personal opinions, how and where you see their work developing, and its progression, how they pitched their presentation today, what they need more of, feedback. You need to make sure that all of you have taken, obviously, notes on your own, and then notes on everybody's that have presented today, so that you've got peer reflection and peer assessment in a Word document, typed up succinctly on your Padlets. Does that make sense, everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Good. Yeah, I like your ideas of Prina. It's now getting together an actual essay and some key texts as well as the poetry. You definitely need to consider thinking about making your own writing, sorry, your own poetry as well.
Understood.
Okay. If you stop sharing your screen and we get everyone together, I just want to Safia, sorry, you had a question for Aprina.
Oh, I think I told her just now. Not a question, the
Okay.
artist. Sorry, let me put my hands on.
Okay. Okay. So, is everybody here clear, or Elizabeth, are you clear on the homework?
Yeah.
Or repeat it back to me.
Well, so we need to write everyone's like everyone's presentation in Word.
Yeah.
Yeah. And be clear what we need to do tomorrow.
Yeah, basically, and have your ILPs and your targets written up already for tomorrow in terms of what you want to make, the outcomes, so that you come in and you set up the day in terms of hours. So by 10 o'clock, I will have done this, 12 o'clock, I will have done this, 1 o'clock, I will have done this, 3 o'clock, I will have made this, X, Y, and Z, so that you are using your time super effectively. That's one part of the homework. And the second is making sure that you write up your peers' presentations, but you think you write it up effectively in terms of advice, targets, what you personally think of their idea, the strengths and weaknesses, their actual presentation, what they need to improve upon, their public speaking, how thorough their presentations were, their use of visuals, what they're trying to communicate. All those things need to be included in your peer assessment of each other's presentations. I also want you to upload your Padlet to the main Teams page if you haven't done that yet. And what else? That's everything for today. Do you have professional practice today, Jessica?
No, it's tomorrow.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah. I was gonna ask.
oh yes, that's going to be a problem because you are back in. Oh, you're back in college. And what time is your professional practice, Jessica?
12.
Oh, how are you going to do that when you've got your lessons with me? Oh, it's because we've returned to college. So college haven't thought about that at all, have they? Oh. How long is your professional practice lesson?
I'm not too sure because he does like a quick presentation and then he speaks to us individually.
Oh. Oh, I'm not sure what to do about that. For the moment, just come to ONE2, come to my lessons. You'll be there 9 till 6:30. You're all going to be all together. I will speak to my curriculum lead and see what we do about professional practice. And I will let you know in the lesson. Not sure what's going to happen there. Okay. Now we've got, I just want to check, Aprina, Safia, Adam, Elizabeth, Charlie looks like she's gone, Jessica, Hannah, and Bunny. Have I missed anybody out? You got
Miss me
Evie.
out. Catherine. Rebecca as well.
Oh, I didn't see. Rebecca, have you been here the whole time?
Yeah.
No, you haven't. You?
I have, but I joined like 9:02.
That's why. Anybody else that I've missed out? We've got Eden. No.
Is that me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh, we have got Eden. Sorry. Have we got Casmin?
Yeah.
Layla? No. Amelia? No. Charlie? Okay. Rebecca, are you ready to show your presentation?
Yeah, but it's not really that much, but I will.
Okay. That's fine. Show what you
Alright,
have.
cool. Share screen.
If you've got background noise on, whoever that is, you might need to turn your mic off.
Sorry, that was me.
Ethan, have you got your presentation as well?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Is it? Can you guys see my screen or?
I can't see anything.
Where
Oh,
is
yeah.
it?
Somebody holding something.
Okay.
Yellow background.
So my theme for FMP is about how we can break the traditional laws of architecture, and also comparing how buildings were made during the past decades to how they're made now. Well, one of my key texts is an architect, a bioarchitect that I found about while I was watching a Netflix series. Her name is Nairi Oaksman. She's a bioarchitect, meaning like she discovers new ways to create buildings without using waste products that harm the earth, like plastic does. She embodies art, design, science, and engineering. From the series, from the episode that I watched about her, I took some quotations that they said. One of them was Nari's model is architecture. Like she uses her surroundings, like she uses basically the things around her to inspire her work. She focuses on the patterns that insects makes, like bees, the hives as well. Even sorry, my phone turned off. Even silkworms who create like kind of like this web like thing. This is like one of the things that she created using silkworms. Another quotations that I got is that she said to herself is, in order to think big, we have to think small. Meaning like she focuses on she starts little, from how atoms and microorganisms are structured and how that develops over time to basically. Another one is, with this, ways that I could reciprocate this is like if I could experiment with like latex or long fabrics of materials at college, and like maybe photograph the way that I structure and shape the latex to make something like this, like the what she did. Another one which really isn't that strong, but I found this article online on well, I forgot the artist's name, but I have a link to it on my bibliography. I forgot the where I found it from, but I have the bibliography. This is basically about how can architectural and modern can traditional and modern architecture coexist? Like, it links to my theme on comparing how buildings are made during the 19th centuries, blah, 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 and how the aesthetics of buildings have changed from the shape, structure, and size of it to the materials used to build it. It's more open and experimental now compared to how they were during the past decades. Buildings were more symmetrical, more simple, more basically boring, really. Like, there's not really more life to it. I highlighted some key things from it. It says, sorry, due to the various of techniques needed to when working with different materials, combining both modern and traditional architecture requires a great deal of dedication, practice, and skill. An architect that I found that does this really good is Daniel Lipskin. He believes that he merges glass and brick. Like, he recreates an old building, really. Like, he could have a building below made of bricks, and on top of it there'll be an abnormal shape made with glass or steel. He basically uses those buildings to influence a person's emotions on the location of it is and the way it's structured. Like, most of these buildings are used to like attract tourists from different parts of the world, and like almost like combining them gives the traditional buildings like more of a purpose, like makes them fit into how buildings are made now. Yeah, that's basically it. I hope people got
Where
that.
did you find your artist from?
That's
Did you say
basically it.
Rebecca, where did you find your artist from?
Can they hear me?
Can you hear me? Hello? Where did you find your artist from, Rebecca? Hello? Jessica, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, Rebecca, can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry, my phone, I don't know what happened.
There's a lot of background noise. You need to turn the TV off and move away from noise at home. Where did you find your artist from?
I found it on this series that I was watching on Netflix.
What series?
It's called Abstract: The Art of Design.
Okay. In terms of practical work for tomorrow, what are you thinking of doing?
Maybe like doing some stuff with latex.
Yeah.
Like creating like an artist response on Neri Oaksman of the silkworms that she used to create this kind of like oval, like it's like a floating. Can you guys still see my screen? Oh,
No, I can't. No.
I'll share it.
Have you thought about knitting or crochet or sewing?
Yeah.
You could try sewing with wire. In a practical sense, I mean, for practical work.
Yeah. Like something like this. But using latex to recreate this.
Okay.
Using latex to recreate it. Using latex to recreate it.
Yeah.
And maybe long fabrics, or maybe I could experiment with like skins of like fruits, like lemon, lime, oranges.
Yeah.
That could be one thing that I could do.
I like the idea of the skin of fruits. That's quite interesting. And you need to buy a lot of fruit.
Yeah.
In a practical sense, but you could stitch that all together.
Yeah.
Start collecting fruit today and bring it all in tomorrow, and experimenting.
Yeah.
I've had a student before that stitched. It was like a fake sort of skin. I don't know where she got it from, online somewhere, together, but also like orange peel and things like that. We should definitely start to look at. Have you put all of this information onto your Padlet?
No. I
Okay,
feel like I want to go into more depth, have like more stronger texts, especially like essays.
Yeah, you do need much more developed and further developed analysis.
Yeah.
And stronger links to essay, and I think that's a time thing. So you need to be working on that much more.
Yeah.
And have that ready for tomorrow to show me. Bring your laptop into college to show me, and save everything onto a USB so I can see it. Can you do that?
I don't have a laptop. I just use my phone, to be honest.
You need to use a laptop. You should get one from college. I think that they're still giving them out. You want to have a laptop, because I will need to look at your Padlets, and when it comes to sharing Padlets and giving feedback online, because what I also want to do is on Teams in the files area is set up separate files for you all, so you also upload work onto there and you're not putting it on the main Teams page. So you're going to need to get yourself a college laptop, and you'll be able to get one from college tomorrow. So we need to sort that out. Those of you that don't have a laptop, you need to bring one in from home. If you haven't got one, you need to get one from college, because you really should be using a laptop, not a mobile phone, and a USB stick, and saving work, especially if you're going to university, because this will be a requirement. And also because you're going to need to be sharing your Padlet with me, and you'll be required to do presentations and bring laptops into college. So if you haven't got that sorted, you need to message me in private chat, and we need to resolve that tomorrow in college. Also, I haven't mentioned that those of you that have still got some more interviews coming up soon, we will do some role play and some interview techniques tomorrow in ONE2. So that needs to be discussed. Does anybody have any questions for Rebecca? No? Abrina, yes.
It's not exactly a question. It's more like research that I found that could help with her work.
Yeah.
Basically, about around November 2018, on the BBC News, they showed a section for architecture, and it basically is about bamboo houses in Bali, and there are these architects who are trying to find more like eco-friendly, kind of more less harmful to the environment, kind of making nice houses with the large resource of bamboo in Bali. So I was going to link that to Rebecca in a PM in private chat.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you.
In the private chat area, message Rebecca those ideas. And also, when you do your peer assessment of each other's presentations today, include suggestions from peers and any messages or things that you've discussed, recommendations, ILPs, targets, and put those into your peer assessments. Is that everything from you, Rebecca?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's work on developing essay. Further analysis tomorrow. Your practical ideas. You need to bring in fruit and things like that.
Yeah.
We need to sort out the laptop issue, and you need to get yourself a USB stick. And also, let's do interview techniques tomorrow as well, if you've got any more coming up. Saturday, we need to do yours, and Jessica, Elizabeth, and anybody else that have got interviews coming up as well. Eden, are you ready to present? Hello?
Oh, sorry, my
Eden.
mic was muted. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, my presentation's pretty much just exclusively focused on my key texts and essays that I've been reading and referencing for my project so far. And specifically, they're focused on the exploitative nature of cults and how they differ from organized religion and cults' depiction in media. I just wanted to put this little slide in here before I carried on, because I do think that the essays that I've chosen are somewhat still kind of differ from my main focus of my project, only because for my actual project, when I start making the final piece, I'm more going to be focused on the more like extreme depictions of cults, and won't really take into consider too much about the more finer details of cults that exist right now. What else? A brief bibliography on the books that I've been quickly looking into, and some of the essays and the ones that I plan to read. The author who I've been looking at the most, Jan Jalalik, who's an American professor of sociology who's focused on cults, and I'm pretty sure she was a part of a cult for 10 years. I can't remember which one, but I have a author research kind of page on my Padlet, I think. I had to cut a few essays short that I included, because I included a few more, but I just cut them down. The first one was Cults, History, Beliefs and Practices by Susan Newcomb. Most of the essays that I was looking at kind of went into maybe the use of the word cult and kind of what that implies when it's used, I guess, and how when you use the word cult, it kind of creates certain assumptions. So I think it was in this essay and a few other articles mentioned that the term emergent religions is probably a better alternative, as it kind of encourages you to examine the group or religion deeper instead of just assuming what they're about or what their kind of practices they have just because they're labeled as a cult. What else? Hard to tell a cult from religion, but this one I didn't look as much into as the previous one. I didn't have too much else to say about it, as it kind of went more into details about the actual cult experience and what it's like being in a cult. I didn't include the Prophet's Daughter that I've been reading. I should have included that one, but I'll include it later. Yeah, so this one mainly just goes into certain details about the certain practices and behaviors that are present in cults, like being discouraged from asking too many questions and questioning cult leaders. And there's also mention about usually the difference between a cult and a religion is that a cult, or I'll say extreme emergent religion, kind of wants its members to be completely committed to the religion and have it kind of dominate their whole life. And again, this is still focusing on the more extreme emergent religions, which kind of goes into, like, I guess, the more common ideas or what people usually think when like the word cult is mentioned. So constant and invasive oversight and strict conformity with any rules or practices, and healthy sense of community. I don't know why I wrote that, because it was, I think going into the essay, it was kind of different, because usually in a cult it doesn't really create a healthy sense of community. I can't remember, I must have gotten rid of a few things or didn't finish it off. But usually in a cult, there's kind of, even though most people would go there for kind of a sense of community, I think it gets to a certain point where you can't really trust everyone around you in the cult, as there's a kind of worry about whether you might, if you're seen like straying too far away from it, that you might get caught by other members of the cult and be punished. And what is cult? Again, this still goes, it's more probably connected to the first essay that I was looking at, which kind of examined the use of the word cult and the kind of differences between cult and religion. And again, going back to the label of cult. So yeah, that's pretty much the gist of what I've been looking at.
Have you been able to speak to anybody that has had experience of perhaps this?
Yeah, I have. I just haven't, because I sent them kind of a list of questions about what it was like and that kind of thing. But I'm waiting for them to get back to me with that.
Interesting. I'd like to see how that develops and what they have to say in relation to that and their experiences primarily. Have you ever been attracted to joining a cult or being part of that community?
Not really. Like cults kind of, or I guess emergent religions, cults, same thing. They do kind of freak me out, and it's, I don't know, yeah, it's a bit weird thinking about them and really going into like the different cults and what kind of happens in them and how they affect people.
Have you looked at because people think that cults are sinister and all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
When there must be elements of it that are based on a sense of community and
Yeah, I
together.
think I missed that because I was watching a BBC documentary. I can't remember who it was by, but they kind of talked to someone who was part of the Church of Scientology, who ended up leaving and said that it kind of became something else and kind of got more corrupt, I guess, which is a part of the reason why they left. So there are, like with normal organized religions, there's kind of different sects and kind of different groups, even though they still kind of fall under, for example, Scientology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. In terms of practical work, what are you working on?
I've mainly been, where is it? I think I've got, I can't remember which tab I have it in. Yeah. So for practical work, I've mainly been doing, it was thumbnail sketches, which I was doing quite a while ago. I started a list of thumbnail sketches that I was looking at because I was still thinking about environmental work. So, which is why I was just going through thumbnail sketches and picking out the ones that I liked. And what else? I was also experimenting with, I've also been experimenting with 3D work, if I can find it. I'm pretty sure I uploaded at least some of it to Padlet. It was this one, and I was working on character 3D sculpting as well, I think a few weeks ago, and I think this was my portfolio, and some more like 3D work that could factor into some of my environment work that I was thinking about. So mainly experimenting with visual noise and weathering, that kind of thing. Also, my sketchbook's mainly focused on like primary sketches. So like just small primary sketches from stuff around my room and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so stuff like a sketch of like my amp and like that kind of thing. Also, I was working on a sketch page based on the movie Hereditary, which is part of, which was a part of kind of my references. And I was also experimenting with palette knives and acrylics, which I'm still waiting for some more paints to come in, and some new palette knives and some canvases as well. So yeah.
Okay, good. Let's explore tomorrow when you come in and discuss materiality, mediums that you could use to express, how you're going to develop and take it forward, and primary sources. That's going to be a key thing as well. Does anybody have any questions for Eden, or ideas, targets, anything that you think, in your opinion, he should further develop? Ideas?
Hazel.
Yes, yeah.
I have a film suggestion.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, you should watch this film, Svaha the Sixth Finger. It's a South Korean film, so it deals with mysterious cult and like this investigation with this mysterious cult. Because I feel like South Korea especially deals with a lot of cults, especially preying on naive, innocent, fragile people.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should check out this movie.
Okay. Cool. Thanks.
What's it called, Safia?
It's called Svaha the Sixth Finger.
Okay. Oh, I'm going to watch that. That's interesting. Good. Have you interviewed your peers, Eden, in what they think about what is a cult? Has it affected
No,
They're,
not really.
they're preconceptions, misconceptions, groups that get labelled. What I find interesting is groups or communities that get labelled and people make flippant comments like, oh, that's a cult, when actually they don't know anything about it. It's not a cult. And we really tend to do it in particularly British society, that anything that is slightly different or unusual, we have this weird mentality here. When I lived in Germany and Holland, society and people living there weren't very different. But here, everything's labelled sinister, or if you belong to a religious group it might be different, that's a cult, that's a weird sector, why are you doing that, and things like that, which is equally annoying, but also kind of fascinating at the same time. Have you looked at sort of famous case studies and people that have been in a cult and then lived through it, or still there, or been
I haven't
married?
really looked into like really famous high profile ones. I've mainly just been looking into like the actual definitions of cults and religion and going into like more smaller stories.
Have a look at some high profile cases.
Okay.
And beliefs of some high profile actors, some celebs, and things like that, and what they're misguided, not always misguided, but their feedback on what they think about this particular topic, I think could be quite interesting spin to your research work. And we'll talk tomorrow about that development and terms of what mediums are going to translate and convey the narrative and direction of your theme, and underpin it with sort of aesthetic sensibility in terms of, what works and what communicates really well. Okay, if we go back, if you turn off your shared screen, have we seen, Safia, you've got your hand up, sorry.
Oh, sorry, I forgot to put my hand down. Sorry.
So we've seen Eden, Safia's, Elizabeth, Jessica's, Hannah, Rebecca, Bunny, Aprina. Have I missed anybody out? We've got Amelia's not here. Adam is not sufficiently ready. Charlie has gone back to work. Layla's not here. Casmin. Who else? Aprina's here. Okay. I'll quickly recap. Homework will be to bring in your notebook of your ideas and everything ready for interview. Number 2, peer assessment on each other's presentations. Don't just do a list, write it in paragraphs, strengths, weaknesses, their idea, suggestions, Q&A, development, etc. Be ready with your 3 ILPs. Number 4, be ready with equipment and ideas and planning each hour of tomorrow's session in terms of what you want to be doing and having your diary. If you've not yet downloaded the FMP Organised Planner and amended it, you need to do that as number 5. Did I mention anything else for homework, Hannah?
Let me just check.
No.
I don't. I think it was just ILPs, writing up your presentations, and then preparing for tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay. Make sure you bring in any of you that have been working on the formative units. Bring those in, please. 10, 11, and 12. I also want to feed back to you your mark that you have got for those. I also want you to share your Padlet with me on Teams and share it so I can look at it. So you need to email your Padlet to me like Safi has done already. You haven't done that yet, most of you, so you need to do that. Bring your laptops in so I can sit with you. And obviously your FMP books, I need to see those. Does anybody else have any questions about today, presentation, work, moderation, anything in general? No, we actually mark your work and then your Padlet is sent to UAL and they will pick a sample. If there is a problem with the sample, they will look at all of you. If there is an issue with something, they will want to see all the evidence of your previous units. We've never had that before, so I doubt it very much. If there is a problem with the grading, either too low or too high from us as a centre, they will look at that. So you do need to make sure that you have everything for your previous units and everything for your FMP is ready. Not to mention deadline. FMP is the absolute deadline. There are no extensions, etc. And it's due in on, I can't remember what date I put on the brief now. If you haven't got the brief inside your sketchbook, you need to have that. That's on there and it's marked 2021. You need to make sure that you've got planning evidence and all this kind of nuts and bolts of your actual FMP. Brief, planner, diary, all of that, and then you've got all the creative side, the practical, and then you've got the theory side, and then your Padlet is all coming together. If you are or something's underdeveloped or you're confused about something, message me today in the private chat area. And remember, tomorrow's lessons start at 9 o'clock. Hannah, yes, I did get your email. I remember now. That's fine. Oh, Hannah, can you send me, because I just really love the pictures that were in your presentation today of your sister, your mum, the clothes and the boot. I don't know if there was another one of the sky.
Yeah.
Can you send me those to my email? I love them. I might print the boot one out, frame it. I love it.
Oh, thank you.
I know. Oh, and send me. Oh, I also really like your drawing of the oh goodness. I think it's like a vintage rose crown thing. Send me an email of your painting of that. And if you've got a picture of the actual lamp at home, send me a picture of that.
Okay.
And yeah, I want to know where you got that lamp from and the boot from.
Okay, I will do. I'll type it in the email.
Yeah, I like unusual things like that, and they really make good photographs. Just interesting.
Yeah.
I really like, Bunny, your paintings as well. I'm looking forward to seeing them tomorrow. And the eyepiece, Elizabeth, that's got loads of potential for an installation of eyes. So I'm really interested in that. Yeah, elements of all your projects. I'm pleased actually that already they're quite in depth. Well, they are very in depth, and the theory and the contextual behind is very strong in terms of your ideas, relating it to semiotics and symbolism and message and meaning. It's really, really important for year 2 to have that. And you're not just thinking of it as, oh, this is an FMP project, it needs to be detailed, but I'll just put this together. They really want to see that it's integral and it means something to you. And for all of you, that really comes across, which is really important and really interesting and exciting for me to observe and see you almost coming out in your project and ideas. because that's at this stage what should be happening for your FMP. So that's really pleasing. Now really try to, you've got time because you won't be handing it in until June. You've got lots of time now to have fun with it, play with it. You've embedded the theory in the contextual. You know where you're going with that. Now is the time to play with it, enjoy it, have fun with it, and really watch it develop and really enjoy. And I'm really glad that you're going to be back in the studio. One, because I'll be seeing you face to face, and two, that you get the chance to see each other, look at each other's work, be together in the studio sort of community. So I'm really pleased. Good. Does anybody have any questions for me? Prina, Rebecca, Hannah,
I'm good.
Safia, Eden, Jess. That's everyone. Okay, and I will see you tomorrow. It's 12 o'clock. So I will see you tomorrow at 9 o'clock outside ONE2. Oh, with the lateral flow test, now a lot of my first years yesterday didn't book them, only about half the class, and they went off at certain times and had them, etc. And you don't have to. You do need to bring in a face covering, same as usual, some lunch or money, all of that. The usual, basically, the usual. And I will see you tomorrow. Yeah. Hello.
Bye, Hazel.
Oh,
Thank you.
bye. And see you tomorrow.
Okay, bye.
Okay. Bye. 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 Bye.
Hazel.
Bye, Jess, Safia, Elizabeth. Okay.